Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan. And today, I'm continuing my Disney movie marathon by reviewing one of the live action films. So I'm doing this because of the fact, well, Disneyland is a wonderful place and it's really joyful, folks. Yes sirree. It brought so many happy memories for lots of people out there, folks, which of course is a good thing. So yeah, folks, I figured that could be a good enough reason to do this, folks. It even brought a smile to my face, even though a lot of the time I'm really grumpy, folks. Yeah, that's true. I'm really complaining. I'm really complacent all the time. So, folks, with that in mind, I do want to review a live-action movie, like I mentioned a moment ago. The film is the 1968 live-action movie titled Blackbeard's Ghost. Yes, sirree. I know a lot of people would expect me to review an animated film, but this time around, because it's Disney. With that being said, as always, I do have to talk about the plot of this particular movie. So let's get into it, shall we? So of course, Blackbeard himself, as a ghost, will play an important role in this film. But the human character, Steve Walker, arrives in mainland in this particular sea coast town to take the position of track coast at this particular place for a college, so to speak. The night of his arrival, yeah, let's just say it becomes pretty crazy, folks. He had accidentally breaks an item in which he got from this bidding place, and this unleashes the Blackbeard's ghost, so to speak. So, because of this, only he can see the ghost of Blackbeard. But that's the thing, folks. He has to do a good thing in order to be released from this particular curse in which he's having. But of course, nobody's going to believe him, even though he does attempt to explain that he's able to see this ghost. But a lot of people out there do believe he's pretty crazy because of this kind of a thing. Yeah, folks, it pretty much goes on that basis, so to speak, folks, of course. So our main character here does attempt to do his best to convince a lot of people, and one of these nights he actually gets sent to jail. And yeah, folks, that's basically what the plot is. I don't want to spoil too much or anything, folks. Yeah, it's a comedy that's directed by the Walt Disney Studios, and it's actually a pretty good one, folks. So yeah, folks, at the end of the day, this wasn't too bad, I suppose. So I can say that this one wasn't too bad, folks. I highly recommend anyone who have not seen this as of yet to go ahead and watch it. And yeah, this film makes references to alcoholism, which is surprising because it's a Disney film. So yeah, folks, they talk about drinking beer and whatever, and they also talk about, smoking cigars, that kind of a thing. Yeah, they actually smoke cigars on screen, which of course is it's a family movie. I know that in this day and age, this kind of thing would have been censored. And yes, of course, there's even a scene where you do some smoking and whatnot. But of course, like I said, this kind of thing would have been censored if it was released nowadays. And yes, guns are actually shown on screen as well later on in the movie, folks, in the final act. There's also some scenes where it has some cheerleaders wearing these mini skirts, so to speak, which again, like I said, would have been censored nowadays if you think about it. So folks, case in point, I'll give this as an example. A lot of people complaining that Frozen's way too sexy looking apparently when it first came out, and it still gets some controversy even up to this very day just for that very reason, folks. Which is actually pretty stupid if you ask me, folks, because of the fact I felt that a lot of kids nowadays are just way too soft, if you ask me. If that's something you're going to be complaining about, that speaks a lot about you, folks. And besides, if that was their intention, so what? You don't have to watch it. The film is rated PG, so leave it alone. And besides that, some people out there are actually attractive. What deal with it? Or is sexually exploitating. Whatever. Anyway, folks. Yeah, I bet the fact that this film was made today, it would have been censored like there's no tomorrow. But, it's technically a family movie, I'm just saying, folks. This film will bring a lot of memories to a lot of people who have seen it back in the day when it was released theatrically originally. Yeah, it's a good Disney film, folks, and it's a lot enjoyable. So I can say there's plenty of great scenes in here, folks. It's not a bad movie. I thought the acting was pretty solid. I mean, granted, some people did better than others, But for the most part, folks, this was a pretty good film, folks, out from the Walt Disney Studios, and I thought the direction in which they would attempt to do was pretty good, folks. I thought this was a pretty fun movie to watch, folks. Oh yeah, for the young and the young at heart, folks. Yes, sir. I mean, it may look a bit dated nowadays, sure, in regards to the special effects, but the special effects aren't too bad when it comes to the time period in which it has. There's a good sense of humor, of course. It does have plenty good sense of humor. Yeah, this movie is pretty cheesy in some ways, folks. I can definitely say that. But Walt Disney himself was fully aware that some of his movies can actually be rather cheesy at times, corny. But he didn't mind it, folks. He just wanted to make something that could be considered good. I mean, yeah, this wasn't too bad, folks. It does have its own sense of adventure. Blackbeard's Ghost wasn't too bad of a movie, folks. So, if you have some free time, if you have nothing else to do, this is definitely a good time waster. There's nothing I can really complain about, folks. So yeah, it's definitely one of those Disney films that you could watch again and again. It does have its own charm to it, folks. Oh yeah. So it's definitely something I can say that is worth your time. Blackbeard's Ghost is the fantasy comedy that was produced by Walt Disney Productions. And yeah, it's supposed to be based upon the novel of the same name, which of course I've not read. Well, not yet anyway, folks. So yeah, this is definitely a little charming adventure kind of a movie in its own little way. So yeah, it's something I kind of recommend for the Disney fans who have not seen this movie as of yet. So yeah, I know a lot of people out there, they don't necessarily think of these live action movies, but much rather think of necessarily thinking of these live action films, but a lot of people much rather think of the animated films that they made in the past, which of course doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. And know that making these animated films had pretty much became the trademark of the studios over here, folks. So, but the thing is that just give this film a chance. Yeah, it's not animated, sure, but give this a chance anyway, folks, because it's not really that bad, really. It does have its moments, and I thought the editing wasn't too bad as a whole. And I thought the lighting was actually pretty good. Yeah, I know this is technically a low-budget film, sure. But yeah, it didn't come off like at some amateur hour or anything like that. So that's a good sign there. And I can tell some actual real effort was placed into this movie, which of course is a good thing. Just because it's a family movie doesn't necessarily mean it has to be bad. So that's something right there, folks. So yeah, I know not a whole lot of Disney fans are bringing this up, really. Which is sad because this film isn't necessarily all that bad, really, when I think about it. I quite enjoyed it, folks. Yeah, the movie is quite lengthy. It's roughly about 2 hours in length, I guess you can say. But it was a lot of fun watching this, folks. It did have a pretty good storyline as a whole. And the acting, for the most part, wasn't too bad, I suppose. So it's definitely one of those films I can watch from time to time. I didn't mind watching it at all, really, folks. Because I thought it was actually pretty good. Yeah, it was actually pretty good and quite enjoyable. So it's something you can watch with the entire family, I suppose, folks, because it wasn't really too horrible or anything. So yeah, folks, there's been plenty of Disney animated films out there, and there's been plenty of live action films out there. And this one wasn't all that bad. I mean, yeah, okay, this movie is pretty goofy in its own little way, but that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. The music that was produced for this particular movie suited the film in the way they wanted to do, of course. So the music composer did a pretty good job in this as well, folks. And then on top of that, I liked the way this was shot. The camera angles were pretty good. So this was a well shot movie, that's for sure, folks. It was a really well shot film with some great music attached to it, folks. It fit the mood of the entire movie, so that's a good thing, folks. I mean, Disney is known for making some good music anyway, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing right there. So yeah, folks, it does a lot of things right, so I can't really complain too much, really. So I liked how this was produced, folks, because it was actually pretty good. Oh yeah, I mean, the humor in here, folks, is pretty harmless. It doesn't do anything that would offend anybody. But then again, judging how a lot of people are nowadays, they probably would take offense for the simplest stuff. Anyway, folks, I did like this film as a whole. Yeah, it was really well made. The way it was written, the dialogue wasn't too bad. I did like the dialogue as a whole, folks. It was well written. The script itself wasn't too bad. I mean, it's quite lengthy, folks. Yeah, it's about 145 minutes. So yeah, it's quite lengthy as a whole. So if you have the patience for it, folks, I'd say check it out. I mean, the pacing wasn't too bad. It moves at a decent rate in this particular film. So yeah, the lighting was good as well. It might not have the biggest budget in the world, but that's probably fine as well. Yes, sirree. So yeah, even the music wasn't too bad as well. I like the music. Yeah, it really did fit. It really did fit the mood in which it was attempting to do. Yeah, it's technically a ghost movie when you think about it, but it did get some positive reviews from the critics and audiences when it was first released. So that wasn't too bad, I guess you can say, folks. It did make quite a bit of money when it was first released. So it's definitely a great ease, you can say, folks. It's pretty easy to get into. And altogether, this was definitely a well-crafted film. The editing as a whole wasn't too bad as well. The entire cast does a good job for a good laugh, of course. And of course, that was the intention. And yeah, this premiered on television in a lot of ways on Saturday afternoons way back when. So, but still, folks, I recommend getting this on DVD or Blu-ray or what have you. It's definitely enjoyable enough to be in your Disney collection. And I did like it, folks. I personally did. Maybe I can buy the Blu-ray version one of these days. Yes, sirree. So yeah, folks, I can say that this was one of those movies I wouldn't mind watching again. This is technically a family movie. I generally speaking, I don't like care for family films really. But this one, a few actually did mind watching, folks. Yes, sirree. So yeah, they definitely bring a whole lot of life in this comedy film, folks, for the entire family. So yeah, it's fun fantasy from Disney, of course. It's a ghost pirate kind of a movie, but that's fine. And that's the thing, folks. I can say that this was definitely a well-made adventure kind of a movie. And yeah, there's lots of fun to be had. There's likable characters and whatnot. So yeah, this is definitely one of the better fan movies I've seen in a good while. So yeah, it does its job like it's supposed to, of course, obviously. So there's not really much I can complain about, really, folks. So I know a lot of people do know the studio make a lots of animated features, so many of them may tend to avoid these live action films, which is a shame if you ask me, because this wasn't all that bad actually. So again, I do recommend this for those who have not seen it as of yet, because it's a well-crafted film as a whole. So the camera angles was really good, and despite the fact that the special effects were pretty cheesy, as mentioned a moment ago, it's not that bad considering the fact that of the timing of the film was released. So yeah, folks. Not every film out there needs like $1 billion to be put into it in order to be good. So this one was actually quite enjoyable in its own little level. It does have its own little charm, of course. It's something you could watch with your entire family if you choose to, or just by yourself. That's probably fine as well, folks. I've seen this film by myself, so that's all good right there, folks. So it's something I can watch again, I suppose. So yeah, in a lot of ways, I can say that this was definitely a delightful film from the Disney Studios. Well, I can honestly say that this film is a lot better than what's coming out nowadays. Oh boy, there's so many bad family films, folks. I could have just as easily dedicated this entire video talking about some of the absolute worst family films of all time. There's been plenty of these over the years, folks, sad to say. So the quality of family films has definitely went downhill after a good while, unfortunately, folks. Well, at least you got the old stuff to look at, folks, I can say that. So I would say check this one out, folks. Do yourself a favor and just be sure to check this one out, because at the end of the day, it wasn't all that bad, really. It really wasn't. So yeah, I say that this was definitely well scripted. I like the script in this film, folks, as I mentioned much earlier. So there's definitely some effort being done here, and that's what I miss. Lots of effort being done in a family movie. Just because it's a family themed film doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a bad movie. Oh, the little kids don't can pay attention. Let's just put lots of crap together. That's not necessarily true, folks. There are some kids out there who are actually smart. Unfortunately, some of these directors don't see that. And just because it's a family film, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to dumb down this overall story. And this does have a good plot, folks. And yes, it's pretty simple. It does have a pretty simple story, folks. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes a simple story works best altogether. And yeah, there's some conflict, of course. You do need to have some conflict within the story. If there's no conflict, then there's no story. If there's no story, there's no plot. So yeah, if there's no plot, then there's no reason for me to care at all. Yeah, but this has a pretty decent plot, folks, as a whole. I did enjoy it. So yeah, folks, I'll say again, check this out, because it was actually pretty watchable in a lot of ways. So yeah, folks, the humor was actually pretty well written. The humor was actually funny. The humor was not forced at all. So yeah, it got some few laughs from me, folks. Yes, sir. So folks, I guess I'll just say that I wouldn't mind buying this on Blu-ray one of these days. I most likely I will. I could review the Blu-ray version if I do get it. But anyway, folks, Blackbeard's Ghosts gets an overall rating of a 7.6 out of 10. It gets a 7.6 out of 10 for me, folks, because it's actually pretty good. So yeah, folks, as always, thanks for watching, and take care. Oh yes, sir. Yeah.